enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift to life. You'll be glad you did.
This is Rogers TV. This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
And we're back for another season. Something that I would like to say that I'm actually quite proud of. We are now going into our 10th year of doing Third Eye View. We've had a lot of wonderful guests over that 10 years. Some of them will be returning this season, but we also have some new guests. And my first guest for this season is Grant from Haunted Ontario. I've got it right?
Ontario Paranormal Society.
Okay. Well, what it is, the page on Facebook is Haunted Ontario. So, hey, at my age, I'm allowed to make the odd, get things mixed up a bit. But anyway, you are a paranormal society. Now, Grant, what got you interested in all of this?
So what got me personally interested in this was I was kind of brought up in Pentecostal Baptist organized Christianity, and I always had a passion for the unknown or the unseen. And through some experiences growing up as a teenager, I experienced things that I had no explanation for. And with the way I was brought up, I automatically assumed it was something dark or mysterious or something that was ominous. So I decided I wanted to pursue it and help people. I've always wanted to help people. I'm a paramedic as well, so my whole life is about helping people, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I did that, and I started amateur doing it with a few friends back in high school, and then I had to take a short break because I had some bad experiences investigating the paranormal. And then as an adult, I met a new team and a group of friends that kind of inspired me to get back into it again. And then now I've come full circle. Now I've been with the Ontario Paranormal Society for about 5 years. Before that, I ran my own team for about 3. And I had a very good opportunity where I was able to meet Lorraine Warren. I was a pioneer in the field of investigations, and she kind of, through our interaction, she kind of, I'd say I felt like she added to that conviction to help people. She kind of said, like, you're doing the right thing. Like, this is your calling. I can feel good energy from you. And it just kind of inspired me to keep doing it. And so up until now, where I'm currently a co-director of the Ontario Paranormal Society, and the other director is Jen. And we have a large team. We just added a few more members recently. So I believe we're up to 15 or 16 members right now. So yeah, we service Southern Ontario primarily, but we've gone as far as like Meaford and even farther north than that. So it all depends on what people's needs are and how we can service them.
Yeah, so if somebody has paranormal activity going on in their home, but it is of a negative kind, do you go in and do clearings, like to help them, or you go in and just sort of check it out and find out?
Yeah, so we try to offer as much as we can within a team. Every person on our team has their own kind of area of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So based on our skill set is how we can provide services for the clients. There is three members now on our team that can do home cleanses.
Good.
So, and it all depends on the client's personal belief structures as well. We like to try and tailor things that will resonate to them as well. Like, I'm not going to go in and push a certain religious agenda on someone that totally disagrees with that particular religion, right? But we do have people that have their own area of expertise, like I said, and then we do it from that way. And we also work with clients if they have a religious affiliation and they want their own say religious leader to do the cleanse. We'll provide them with the evidence we've captured and kind of relay that information to their religious leaders to try and get help that way as well.
Have you worked with many religious leaders in the past?
We've worked with a few, and it's hard to get them to come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
I find a lot of different religious leaders will only help if you are a dedicated member of their parish or their location. So it can be very hard to get that
Yeah.
support from outside of a team that does this on their own time as well.
Yeah. Years ago, we lived down in the Niagara area, and I was called into a home because they had been playing around with the Ouija board, not knowing what they were doing. And they had called in some really, really negative entities. And there was one in particular, and I mean, I did my best, Grant. I couldn't clear it. And I had a sagebrush with me. I was doing some smudging. And at the end, I tried to get it out, wouldn't go out, ran it underwater. It went out, pulled it back, went up in flames again. So I thought, okay, this is more than I can handle this one. So I contacted a Catholic priest. And it, like you say, it's not easy. And, you know, they talk about negative entities and things like that. But when it comes to actually working to clear one, they're skeptics. But
Yeah,
I did find a Catholic priest, and he came and he helped me. And he was just like, you could see the look on his face because the entity actually showed itself as a rather large, dark figure. And between the two of us, we were able to clear it. Now, I'm not Catholic, but I used to have a gold cross, and I wore it all the time because it felt comfortable. It just felt right. And I asked him if he would bless it for me. And he looked and he said, "Do you believe in this?" And I said, "Well, of course I do. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't ask you." "Oh." And I said, "Now I have a question for you. Do you now believe in what I do?" And he looked and he said, "You know, when I first came here," he said, "I didn't know what to expect. I certainly didn't expect what I saw, but I can't not believe now. So yes, I do." But and he said to me at the end, he said, "Look," he said, "if you need help, any kind of help like this again in the future, let me know. I will come and help you." But
That's fantastic. Yeah.
oh, it was. And over the years, I've even had a few ministers come for readings, like to come to see me about their future. So, some of them are coming around and opening up a little bit. But what has been your favorite or most memorable, let's say your most memorable encounter with a spirit or with a haunting?
Oh, it's a tough one. There's been many interesting ones. I wouldn't
Mhm.
say that I particularly enjoy interactions, but it definitely strengthens your belief in your if you have an associated religion like I do. I would say I relate more to Christianity personally. Um, but the more you experience things, the more it kind of gives you that passion or that renewed energy. And I enjoy that. And I enjoy more the resolution from the client as opposed to a spirit interaction. Because most people call us in because it's something that they perceive as bad. So
Hmm.
constantly putting yourself out there for something bad can have its own um, issues as well, or its own side
Hmm.
effects, if you will. So
Absolutely.
I would say it's more about the resolution and the accomplishment after you do your investigation. You and like the almost like the social work side of it for me, where these people are terrified, they don't know what to do, they don't understand what's going on. You go in, find evidence to support them, so then they feel validated, and then you come across a resolution. So it's very all encompassing. We're not a team that just comes in, pokes the bear, and runs away and says, "Oh, we got some evidence, cool," and then runs away. Like
Mhm.
I'm still working with a client, and it's been I think about 9 months of us going back
Oh.
and like constant interactions, like communication back and forth. It's it's a very complicated case we're dealing with, and there's a lot of layers to it.
Hmm.
From an investigation standpoint, um, we like to think that everyone has a great story. Everyone's watched TV. Anyone can come up with something, but finding that information that corroborates that, or researching that historical evidence on the property, capturing that evidence that builds that big story and that allows us to gain insight as opposed to just coming in and leaving. I think that's what makes our team very unique is we don't leave until the client's satisfied, or we don't end the case until they're done. So I think that accomplishment at the end is what I enjoy the most.
Hmm.
Because I've had some very strange interactions, and one of my favorite locations was the Myrtleville House in Brantford. It's a historical museum building that they've uh, restored, so all of the furniture is time period piece. Like every you walk in and it's like going through a time warp. So it's very fantastic, and I've been there. I've only been there once, I believe, or once or twice, but our team has been there multiple times because our core team centers out of Brantford, Ontario. So um, as soon as I walked in, like stuff was happening. Like I walked in, the team had already set up equipment, and I saw a cat run into the one office, and I was like, "Oh, you guys have cats in the museum? That's strange." And they're like, "Oh, you already had your first experience." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Oh yeah, we have a ghost cat that runs around, and people see it all the time, but there's no cat here." I was like, I like it was so like I couldn't deny what I saw. I'm like that was totally a cat. Like you're joking with me, right? And
Yeah.
then the night just kept going on. Like things like fell off a shelf, and of course we don't have a camera in that space. It always happens that way. Like things happen
Yeah.
when out of sight. So like things were falling off shelves. We had it sounded like kids running around upstairs on the floor, and we had 3 or 4 teammates on the second floor, and you could hear the footsteps running from room to room, and we were standing still, and it was so incredible. um, that there was rattling inside a wardrobe that night that we could have sworn was a bat or a rodent, and we changed the cameras, opened up the doors, and nothing was there except like a top hat and like a shawl, like time period clothing. So we're like, there's nothing here. Like, why would it doesn't make sense? Like that's why it's paranormal, right? We can't explain why this is happening. It's
Right.
beyond our comprehension. And then I had a serving tray smack on a table behind me. It's one of the few times I've actually jumped on a case. So I it was right behind me, and there's like a lounging, like a reading chair, and like a night table beside it, and there's a like a silver serving tray on it, and we're just sitting there trying to communicate with the original homeowners of the house, see if they'd come forward for us, doing EVP recordings.
Hmm.
And I just heard a bang right behind me, and we actually caught it in video of me jumping, and it was a big joke for a while because we're like, "Oh, Grant's a scaredy cat," which is pretty fun, and we like to poke fun at each other too as a team. So yeah, I did that, and then I went around. We were banging stuff to trying to reproduce it, and it was the serving tray, and like that night for me was very memorable because there were so many things happening, and it was super fantastic to experience that, and to interact with who we believe was like the original owners of the property.
Wow. Now, Brent, for those who may not know, can you explain what EVP is?
Sure. So electronic voice phenomenon. So it's what you do is you can a lot of people use their cell phone microphones to record audio. We like to use more advanced technology. There's what we like to use typically are like Zoom audio recorders. So some people use them for professional music recordings and stuff like that. So they're big giant microphones. They're designed to capture only audio. So it's got one purpose. Um, some of them even can sense, they'll adjust the recording based on how far the audio is from the device as well. So as an example, like if you had one of these audio devices in a lecture at university or school, it could sense how far the teacher is from where you are, and it will amplify the audio so you can hear it better when you play it back. So EVP, um, there's spirit theories that um, just like animals can hear better than humans can, they have better hearing, they can hear different ranges.
Mhm.
Um, we're limited to what we can hear. And in that moment, a lot of times we don't hear things, and it could be because of the distractions or many multiple factors. But almost every case we've been on, we've captured some kind of EVPs that wasn't there in that moment or we heard in that moment. Um, and it's quite a fantastic tool. If you're not using it to investigate, 100% recommend you try EVP because it's our number one source of evidence when we do cases.
All right. Now, there are, and I didn't know this until a few months ago. Um, I was with some friends, but there are different apps that you can get for your cell phone, iPad, whatever, that sort of ghost hunting. And I imagine it sort of goes along with the same idea as the EVP. But I know there's also a tool that you have. I don't know if it's the EVP, but it's the one where you put it out and words, if the spirit can talk into is it called the spirit box, where the spirit can actually talk into it and you can hear words?
So the spirit box you might be thinking of something called like an ovulus.
Oh,
Um,
really?
so it's a electronic device that's been designed like pre-programmed with so many words like a dictionary. And the idea is the electric frequencies from say a spirit, or the theory behind it is that spirit can pick words from this database and then pick them randomly. And when you're asking questions, sometimes a word will come up and it'll say a word to you. That's a device called the ovulus. And it's on television, it's a fantastic tool, and it's used almost every show that you see because it does give you words, and it
Yes.
but how much of that is based on the design? Like it's designed to do a specific thing. So is it truly paranormal, or is it part of the programming of the device? Right. So you have to take some pieces of ghost equipment that have been designed for specific things with a light heart, because unless it's corroborating what you're doing in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say that that's factual because we can't put numbers on it like scientific knowledge or like an experiment. We can't say, yes, this was the reading on the device and then it came up with this word, because all you get is the word. A lot of people don't know the ins and outs of all the devices. So,
Exactly.
and the people that design them don't want to tell you those secrets because that's the patent, right? That's how they
Yeah.
make the money on it.
Oh, of course.
So the same thing with apps, right? Like they're designed for a very specific thing. And a lot of them will have a disclaimer saying for entertainment purposes only. So as a team, we don't rely on any apps because they
Okay.
could be pre-programmed fraudulently and you could get false negatives. So a lot of the equipment, like our audio recorders, are standalone professional audio recorders that only record audio. There's no database, there's no manipulation of the device. You're getting what you're getting. Just like the spirit box you're talking about, the traditional spirit box is a AM FM radio, and it sweeps through the frequencies very fast. So the theory behind it is spirits can communicate through the white noise between the channels. So when you're doing that, and the person that designed it, I believe was Frank, and it's called a Frank's box. I forget his last name. I'm sorry. Um, but he designed it, and he thought he could speak to aliens with it. So because he's been because he got answers on it that he couldn't explain, it got adapted by the paranormal field because people were taking the device out to investigations, and they're actually getting audio responses that they couldn't explain. Therefore, it was paranormal, right?
Right.
And it's become this tool that's common practice now across the field, based on the theory that spirits can communicate through that white noise, that audio frequencies in between. It's very fantastic too, because when you get good success with it, you're getting words across multiple frequencies, which you can't explain by natural cause, right? When you're
Right.
listening to a radio channel, it's stuck on one frequency. You hear the music, you hear the radio DJ talking. But now if you stretch that out over like 10, 15 channels in a short period, and you get a full sentence, that doesn't make sense. It shouldn't happen, right?
Right.
So that's another tool that we use, and it's the same thing. Like you can get a lot of random words and a lot of things coming through, but if it doesn't kind of corroborate what you're trying to do in the moment, then it's interesting, but I wouldn't say necessarily that's a factual evidence to substantiate that you have a haunting or something. It's just
Yes.
interesting, right?
Right. Now, our house, we have an old house, live in an old house. It was built in the late to mid 1870s. And when it was first built, it was built as the rectory for the Anglican Church. And we have a lot of spirit activity go on here. And I used to use a tape recorder to see what it would pick up. Not anything like the equipment that they use now, but it was what was there at the time back then. And one time we went out and I left the tape recorder left it running in my office. And then when we came home, I played it back and I got footsteps, I got voices, and I had one very deep voice saying, "I want my baby."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very, very clear. And of course, me, I've always thought, "Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great?" So first thing, I'm telling my kids about it, and I was telling my son, and his wife was there, who was pregnant, and she didn't want to come to the house. Well, I'm not coming to your house, not while I'm pregnant. They're not going to take my baby. Yeah. But we have a good number of years ago, I had another paranormal team on the show, and they came to the house. We did a show here at the house, and they did an investigation. Well, Matt, he was here and he set up all the equipment, and he had the pedestal set up for the camera, and all of a sudden it was like you could see a funny look on his face. It's like, this isn't right. Well, when they played it back, the tripod actually moved about 6 inches on its
Wow.
own, and they caught it on film, the paranormal team. And then through the night, they caught a white mist coming down the stairs, floating into the kitchen, and then it just disappeared. There are entities, and I'm sure you've come across this, there are some very negative, but there's also some that are very positive. And there was another time, just after we moved here, I had an acquaintance of mine came over with her daughter. And the daughter, the house didn't like her. And she was sitting in the chair, and you could see every so often she was going forward like that. Someone was down here pushing her. And when they left, a woman's voice from the staircase very clearly said, "Well, thank God she's left."
Oh, wow.
Clear as anything. Yeah. So, um, I have a very dear friend who is very, very skeptical when we first met. But the years of knowing me, he has like, yep, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I've been to your house. I've been around you. I know these things can happen. So, they are real. And one of the things that I have noticed, I have found with people, some of them have contacted me, and it's like, okay, am I going crazy? Ghosts, like, they don't exist, do they? And it's like, well, yeah, they do. No, you're not going crazy. And anyone out there, if you have strange things happening in your house, there's always someone to help. Now, Grant, if somebody wanted to get hold of you, or like the Ontario Paranormal, how would they do that? What is your website address?
So our website is ontarioparanormal.ca. We also have Facebook page. We have Instagram page. I think we have a Twitter, but we don't really use it much, and that's all a mess right now. So I think we're just not really doing that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, online, if you go, on the first page, there's a button that you can click. It says request an investigation, and you can just pull it right up, and there's a survey we have. So, or like an application process. And what that does is gives us more insight to what might be going on. And that helps us eliminate cases that might not be as, I don't want to say, it might not be as significant for some people as it is for others. So it allows us to pre-screen them because this day and age, there's a lot of fans of the shows, and we've come across people that sometimes just want the entertainment of it. They want someone to come in,
Yes.
and they want the TV show in their house, and that's not what we're meant for. That's not what we do. We're there to help people that are in crisis or going through something they don't understand. We don't want people abusing our services, right? So this survey allows us to screen people, and it gives us insight to what they might be experiencing. It has stuff on there like, how long have you lived in your house? How old is your house? What have you been experiencing? What are your religious beliefs? What have you had done previously? Because some people, if they're desperate, they've called 10 different organizations, or they've had 3 psychics come through, and they're like, it's still not getting better. So that all helps us kind of build the case and get more insight, because we investigate. Think of us as like the private investigators of your problem. Or I like to draw a similarity to like a family doctor. A doctor, you go into your doctor with a problem, you ask them for an investigation, they do a bunch of tests on you, and they hope to find the answer and then give you the solution to the problem. We don't just come right in, go in, and we're like a lot of teams, and poke the bear and run away, like I said. So yeah, we do that, and then after they fill out the online application, then one of our case managers will call them and do a secondary screening interview, just to make sure their story is actually stays consistent. Because if there's inconsistencies in the story, then we know there's likely to be a fabrication.
Yes.
And because we do this voluntary, we don't get paid for this. We don't charge anyone for this.
Okay, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, we don't. We'll accept donations if people feel that we did a fantastic job, because we pay for all the batteries ourselves. We pay for all our gas ourselves. Like if we're far out of town, we have to pay for hotels. So as a team, we invest a lot into our clients, and they trust us with their issue, but we also give that reciprocation back and that professionalism, and say, hey, if you're trusting us, we're going to do this for you, and we're going to invest in you to make you have resolution. And we don't want to be abused in that manner either. Like,
no.
So,
and obviously it is a passion for you. Now we're going to take a very short break, and we will be back. So don't go away, and I'm sure we'll have some more stories.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship, but as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, Letsamot, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
And we're back. Now, Grant, during the break, you mentioned that you have some events coming up.
Yes, we do. We do a lot of charitable events for museums. It kind of started as a team. We did some local events for Brantford. There's one called Scare in the Square in October. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and the city puts it on. It's a big Halloween event in the downtown core. For 2 days, I believe it is. We are doing tours at the location, the Brantford Historical Society. So people can come, pay money, and then the proceeds, most of the proceeds go to charity for the city. And you can come kind of get a brief idea of what we do. It's a quick tour. It's not as immersive as some of our other in-depth investigations because we're trying to appeal to the broad public more.
Yeah.
But so you'll get to see the equipment we use. You get to like put hands on to some of the equipment. You get some history about the location. A lot of fun stuff, especially if you're fans of that. That's the first weekend in October. The second weekend in October, we're doing this is a new event for us. We're doing on the Friday the 13th. We're working with the city of St. Thomas in Ontario to do a tour downtown. We're very excited about it. It's through the public library there. I'm not sure if they've started advertising for it yet, but to keep your eyes out for that. And we do post all these things on our Facebook page as well for people that are interested. The following weekend, October, of course, is busy for everyone, especially investigations and tours. So the following one, we're doing a tour for the Brantford Library and I believe the Brantford Military Museum. I might be wrong on that, but we're doing a tour that weekend. And then the last weekend in October, we're doing a tour for the Homer Watson Gallery in Kitchener, which is a fantastic location. There is significant historical hauntings there. Homer Watson was a spiritualist, a very avid spiritualist, and he actually held seances in his gallery there and in his family home, even with the likes of William Mackenzie King, one of our early prime ministers. So he was a celebrity of his time with his art, and you think of all the A-list celebrities in Canada at that time would go to his house and do seances. So there's tons of fantastic history there, and we've done tours there for several years now to help support the museum. So once again, we're back there the last weekend. Aside from that, the end of August, I believe the tour might be almost sold out now, unfortunately, but we're doing a tour at the Donnelly Museum in Lucan. So if a lot of people don't know about the Black Donnellys, I would encourage you to read up on a fantastic part of Canadian history.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say fantastic, maybe, but it's very dark and it's very interesting, and there's two sides to the story, and somewhere the truth lies in between. As you age, you learn that with most things in life. The truth is somewhere in between, right? So with the Black Donnellys, there's been many books written on the family, It's one of the oldest cold case homicides in Ontario Canadian history. So a lot of people are very, very excited. We went last year and did 2 nights, a tour on the anniversary of the massacre, which was very fun, but not because it was during a winter storm. But everyone that came out still had a great experiences, and we were able to fundraise for the museum. So we're doing that again in nicer weather this time. So we're very excited for that to bring more awareness to the museum and local history as well.
Yeah. Now, Grant, I'd like to go back to the Homer Watson for a few minutes. Where in Kitchener is that? Like, is it near the road Homer Watson, or is it sort of totally?
Yeah, it's just kind of back in off of Homer Watson Road there, Homer Watson Boulevard, I believe. So there's Conestoga College and Homer Watson. It's right back in that area, Dune South, I believe.
Okay.
So, and they have local artists that do exhibitions all the time. They have a book that they've made based on employees and people's experiences with the paranormal in that property. And there's so much history about that location. It's a local kind of hidden gem for that paranormal that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, no, two of my kids, well, all three of my kids live down in Kitchener, but two of them live just off of Homer Watson. So, and I'll bet they don't know that about him.
Yeah, he was doing that all the time, and they have a lot of stories, and they actually have handwritten notes from participants in the seances of what they experienced or what was told to them or revealed to them during these sessions. So it's very, very, very cool. Very cool location and a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be. The I was going to say,
and not just the investigation there. They do a spirit season, they call it, every year. So in October, like I believe that whole weekend they're doing events like a psychic fair. They have psychics that you can book readings with, and different things that happen too. So if you're into the Halloween season and looking for something to do, I encourage you to look into that as well.
Grant, the psychic fair. Now, this is put on by Haunted Ontario?
No, that's the Homer Watson Gallery does that. They invite us out every year to do it for them to help fundraise. So anytime we do an event, it's run by we offer our services to the location. So they're in charge of the ticket sales, they're in charge of the scheduling, all of that stuff. So each of those locations, if you're interested, reach out to them. So like the Scare in the Square, the Brantford City runs that, so the tickets are through them. The Brantford Library tickets are through the Brantford Library, etc., and stuff like that. So
yeah. Oh, I'll have to look into that. I haven't done a psychic fair in years. Actually, since before COVID. But they're a lot of work. They're tiring, but they are fun.
Yeah, and there's more and more popping up almost every weekend. You can find one in Southern Ontario if you're interested. So
you don't find them up here in King Garden. Up this way. That's the problem. You have to go away.
For sure.
But no, it's now one of the things that you had mentioned during the break was about theories.
Yeah, so there's many theories, and I would say paranormal research is kind of a rabbit hole, if you will. There's things like parapsychology and just regular psychology and what you see on the TV shows. So I'd say it's almost like New Age. It's become its own religion per se, like based on its theories. So people pursue things based on that, and it's the spiritualism meeting technology and trying to come up with a happy medium in between to prove what most of us already feel is real, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the spirit theories are like the radio frequencies that, and like sound theories like ultrasound and infrasound, different sound spectrums, and that relays across many different religions too. Like there's people, um, if you believe in, say, like sorry, stones and certain properties of certain stones. It's big in New Age spiritualism. Certain stones represent certain things, and they can help protect you. And
Yeah.
that's and the basic idea behind that, from my understanding, is that everything scientifically vibrates and creates its own sound patterns, and all matter is molecules tightly bound or loosely bound, if you're looking at it scientifically. So sound can penetrate those. And if everything's vibrating at a certain frequency, then those frequencies perhaps have a certain property that can be applied to other parts of your life. So
Yeah.
stones, a lot of stone theory, they believe certain stones can vibrate at certain frequencies, and then that gives you that health benefit, if you
Yes.
will. And that almost overlaps with like your chakras, like each of your 7 chakras
Mhm.
resonates at a certain frequency, and that then goes to like singing bowls and different stuff like that. And
Mhm.
scientifically we say, well, how does that even make sense? Well, if you think of ultrasound therapy medically, it's been proven to help people with certain ailments, right? Ultrasound or ultrasound imaging, or like, so there's so many scientific and spiritual potential applications for sound theory as a whole. Um, and there's been so many pieces of evidence that have been captured. It's hard to say that's, you can't consider that to be legitimate, right? Like a lot of people, you see, in this day and age, it's very, very hard to weed out what's real and what's not based on the evidence presented, because it's so easy to manipulate technology now.
Oh, it is.
Um,
And
so
to play with evidence and change it. It's
it's incredibly easy. So it's very hard, and people need to be cautious of taking people's word for face value, because it's so easy to manipulate things. It's so easy to go into a location where someone's terrified and just validate, validate, and feed into that fear and say, oh, I'll come in and do a cleanse of your house, but it's $500. It's so easy to manipulate
oh,
people when they're at a point of weakness, and that's
it is.
awful that people do that.
I think it is too. I really do.
Um, and like I said, we don't do that as a team at all. Everything's free, so we don't have that bias where if
Mhm.
we go in and don't find anything, I'm going to tell you I didn't find anything. And I
Yeah.
hope that that gives you comfort and validates you and makes you move past what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
We've also gone into cases where we've said that, and people are so, they're so biased. They already believe it so much that they say, then they call us frauds. We're like, well, no, if I was a fraud, I'd be making up evidence and doctoring it for
Absolutely.
you, which
Hey,
I'm not. So
if you if you were a fraud, you'd be charging up. You would be charging money. You wouldn't be doing it for free.
yeah, so there's a lot of people that are chasing the celebrity too nowadays with like YouTube, TikToks and stuff. Everyone's chasing more viewers, more viewers, more viewers. If
Yes.
I get more people, then I get revenue.
Yes.
So it's
It's all
always
about
good to
money.
be mindful of that stuff. If someone's seeking celebrity, try to steer clear of them, because there's a lot of celebrities in the field
Mhm.
that are still amazing and still fantastic and still down to earth and talk to you like a person. And there's other ones that have that ego and will, yep, nope, you're nothing to me. I'm not going to talk to you. And that's an interest me type thing. So if you do have an experience, try to be selective of who you're reaching out to too. And I know it can be scary trying to find someone, but if there's red flags popping up, they're red flags for a good reason. So try and steer clear of people that you have the potential to manipulate you.
Yes. We had years ago, I was down in Lilydale. I went down to Lilydale and I was down there for the weekend and I met a gentleman down there. I do not remember his name. I said it really was a long time ago. But he had written a book about Chinese ghosts, and which I do have a copy of it somewhere. But he was telling me a story and he was American, but he had gone to a home. He'd been called into a home that was having paranormal activity. And there was an older woman there, and she had died. I think it was what, over 100 years ago. I think it was 150 years ago at the time. And he sat with her for over an hour, convincing her that she had died. She didn't, the soul didn't realize that the body had died, and that can happen. Now, because she was in spirit, obviously she could put her hand through him. So therefore she figured, well, if I can put my hand through you, then you've got to be a ghost. And it took him a good hour, hour and a half to convince her that she had actually passed away.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he was able to, help her move on to the next level and do the clearing. But there are some very, very interesting things. Niagara on the Lake. Have you done much down there?
We've been there a few times, but it's a very, very interesting landscape, I would say. There's so much history there.
Oh, there is. At the fort, apparently, now they say that when the spirits are still there, oftentimes they're still in their own time frame. And there was one, he's one of the soldiers, and the ramp that he used to walk on, they have actually raised it. It's not the same as at the same height. And when his spirit is seen, you see half of him above it and the other half below the new one, because to him, he's still walking on the old one. And another example of that, I was called to a house down in South Carolina, Meriden Inn. And they had an awful lot of activity there. And one of the things that was happening, every afternoon at 4:00, they would hear a whistling noise coming towards the house. And, at first they thought, oh, maybe it's the wind, or they were trying to come up with all of these explanations, but there was nothing logical about it. So they called me and I went there, and I've actually got a few pictures that I took. A friend of mine was a photographer. He went and he took some pictures with the ultra, what is it? It was a red light anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And he got some very interesting pictures. But this whistling, what it was, back during the days of slavery, the kitchen was always separate from the main house, so that if there was a fire in the kitchen, they could get it out before it reached the main residence, the main house. Now, when the slaves were carrying food from the kitchen to the main house, they had to whistle, because as long as they were whistling, they couldn't eat the food, right? And this is actually where the term whistle while you work, this is where it actually originated, not from Walt Disney, okay? But this is where it actually originated from. Well, this poor slave, he had forgotten to whistle on this one particular day, and he was whipped and he was beaten so severely that he died. So his soul, his spirit, every day, 4:00, he went from the old kitchen to the house carrying the trays, and he whistled every time because he didn't want to get whipped again. So again, had the conversation with them, and we were able to clear that. But another instance that they had in that house, the original owner, she was a teetotaler. And they were doing an event. It was a bed and breakfast. They were doing an event where they were serving wine. And they had all the wine glasses all set up in a pyramid. And they had them all set up, and they went into the kitchen to prepare the food. And all of a sudden I heard this crash. Well, they went through. Every single wine glass was over on its side. None were broken, but everyone was on its side.
Wow.
Yes, because she didn't want, I can't remember her name, but she, like I say, this was so long ago, over 20 years ago, but she did not want wine served in her house.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's even a lot of people, I would say, try to diagnose a haunting, right? Trying to
Mhm.
say like it's this, it's that. There's no true textbook or true course that says like this
No.
is how much you go, like you go into school and this is how you approach things. This is how you do it. So in those situations where you said they're very predictable at the same time, some people could argue that that's a residual haunting. That's just an imprint of energy as opposed to an active haunting.
Yes.
And just by cleansing the space or changing the energy flow in that area can help relieve that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
there's lots of approaches. There's lots of different types and ideas.
Hmm.
Um, I always recommend if you're interested, read a book. There's so many books out there that
There are.
help you understand the field better, a lot more than the TV shows would. Um, there's one fantastic book I love. It's called The Poltergeist Phenomenon. By a gentleman named Michael Clarkson. And he's a Canadian author, and he always did investigative books, but he decided to do a book on spirituality, and it's based on parapsychology, and the science behind it, and how everyone thinks a poltergeist is this scary demon that throws things around your house. But there's other theories that could suggest that might not be so. It might be the actual human mind doing it subconsciously, which is very fascinating to me.
Hmm.
Um, so definitely recommend getting out there and find some stuff. Like there's so many credible authors, like doctors, PhDs that are writing on the subject matter. Those are the people you want to steer towards, less the entertainment people, because they're going to give you perhaps a less biased product that
Hmm.
allows you to also formulate your own opinion. Um, so I always love looking through the library. Oh, that book looks great. It's by this doctor, and or it's by this person with a PhD that did all these experiments in the Eastern world, and they have different parameters where they might be able to do different experiments based on their medical bodies that govern them, as opposed to North American ones. And very fascinating stuff. Like the conservation of energy is a huge theory behind spiritualism. Is when you're or the human spirit, once you like energy can't it has to go from one form to another. It can't be created or destroyed. So when the human body dies, where does your spirit go? Where does that energy within you? If you don't believe in spirits or you're skeptical, where do you go? If your body dies, where does your mind go? Well, based on scientific theory, your body has enough energy at rest to power a light bulb. So your body's constantly creating energy. Your body is energy. Without energy, it is no longer living. So where does that energy go? Right. So there's theories behind that. There's also one, I believe it's called the 28-gram theory. When you die, your body weighs 28 grams less than it did when you're alive. Well, that proves that there's been a change in matter. Where
Yeah.
does that go? There's all these theories. And that specific theory had been torn apart and discredited in this, but it still remains a fascinating idea and a theory that one day might be proven if someone is allowed to pursue that scientific endeavor,
Yeah.
right?
My 8-year-old, one of my 8-year-old grandsons, he was here. He had a sleepover beginning of July. And he asked me, talking about where does it go? 8 years old. And he said, Grandma, when we die, where do we go? How do we get to heaven? And it's like, oh God, how do I answer this one? Um, so an 8-year-old will understand it. But it is, I mean, it definitely, the soul definitely goes somewhere. And I have personally, I have seen so many things over the years that I can't discount it, and let's be honest, there is no logical explanation. I mean, sometimes there is. I went to one house and she actually had a squirrel up in the attic, But and I mean, and that happens, which, like you say, you have to ask questions. Now we're almost at the end here, Grant, and in case somebody missed at the beginning, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Sure, yeah. We have a website, OntarioParanormal.ca. You can look us up on Facebook, Ontario Paranormal Society, and you'll come right up. If you have an issue, there's a few members that have direct access to our messenger, so you can direct message us through Facebook, and someone typically will respond within an hour. Because this day and age, we're all glued to our cell phones, unfortunately. But yeah, those are two great ways to get a hold of us, and keep an eye on our upcoming events and anything else if you're interested in following us, like us, and we're happy to help out where we can if needed.
Good. Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Very interesting. And again, for anyone, if you have paranormal activity in your house and you're not sure about it, it really is best to get hold of someone who knows what they're doing, someone who has dealt with it, someone on a professional level. And if they're going to charge you $500, $1,000, whatever to do it, no, because they're doing it more for the money. Those that, like Grant, and there, some other paranormal teams that don't charge, they're doing it because they believe in it. They believe in what they're doing. They're there to help. They're not there to make money. And it's a passion. And when something's a passion, you always do your best with it. So again, Grant, thank you very much. And it's great being back again. And remember, keep laughter in your heart. See you next time.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
We can be hurt. We can be bruised. We can be broken. Slowed down, confused, and even numbed. But we can't be defeated. We're built on a foundation that's strong, our mission unwavering, and together we'll